Welcome back to the channel of truth, trust, and transparency. As I am truthful and transparent, I thought, why not put together a YouTube video going through the entire reasoning that I, myself, David Hamilton, have created a property investment course. Now, before I dig into this particular episode, there's a couple of things and a bit of context that's probably worth noting if you've just came across my YouTube channel and followed me here and you haven't been across the entire story of what I've been doing in the Australian property investing landscape over the last couple of years. So, first and foremost, one thing that I feel unfortunate for is that the good old crypto bros and the Iman Ghazis of the world and those types of guys, I think they've kind of put a dampener on the word courses and online courses, and there's plenty of gurus and crypto kings and all those sorts of things that sell an online course. So, unfortunately, I think the word, it's a little bit of a dirty word these days because everyone hears course and they go straight to spooker and scammer. But I think when I run through some of the reasonings as to why I've created a course, you guys will see that it kind of makes sense with who I am and what I've been doing compared to, joining in and becoming a buyer's agent like everybody else in Australian property. So, look, unfortunately, I think courses do have a stereotypical notion to them these days, a little bit spammy, a little bit scammy. So I'm kind of behind the eight ball when it comes to creating a course. But I think if you can look past that and see me for who I am and what I've been doing, then you'll understand why I've done it. And to take you back probably, 2.5, 3 years now, I started planning and then started the Everything Property podcast. So to understand why I've done the course, you probably need to understand why I started that podcast. And the reason is because I was kind of fed up with, I used to and still do listen to a lot of podcasts these days. I probably don't have enough hours in the day these days to listen to every single podcast because I feel like there's a new one started every week. But back those few years ago when I sort of planned out and started the podcast, I had a growing frustration with the property education space and the property podcasting space in Australia. And my frustration is that all the content that was being put out by buyer's agents back then. And why I was pissed off with it was because I felt like when you listen to those sorts of podcasts enough, you kind of get the sense that they just keep on repeating themselves. There's a level of information that these guys will talk about and go into, and then there's areas where they won't, and where they say things like, oh, that's something we work with clients, or they gatekeep a lot of the information or the shit that I really needed to know as a property investor, that they wanted to sort of suck you into their marketing vortex, bring you on as a client. And, I never really saw the value for buyer's agents, back then, especially with what they're charging. You fast forward now and people are charging, probably double and or triple and some. And I just felt like it didn't make sense for me to, and it just bugged at me. It just ate away that every single episode, I just didn't really get what I wanted. The topics were being repeated. It started to turn very salesy. It was talking about clients. They wouldn't tell me the in-depth shit, that you really needed to know, those little lending nuances, the stuff about trusts, all those sorts of things. It was like, oh yeah, we tell that with, our clients and clients only. So back then I got so fed up that I was talking to a few people and I was like, look, I'm actually thinking of starting a podcast where for property, but we actually talk about everything. We talk about everything that you need to know in property so that no stone is left unturned, nothing is gate kept, and it's not just a buyer's agent going on a long sales pitch every single week. And they said, well, look, what are you going to call it? And I said, why don't we call it Everything Property? Because I'm going to talk about everything property related. I think it was everything property related, but I just said that is such a long name for usernames and all that kind of stuff. So Everything Property became the name. I managed to pick up the Instagram handle. Then I was on my way. So that's how I came about starting the Everything Property podcast. It was birthed from that lack of just truth, trust, transparency in property information and educational space. And what I sort of went on to learn is that, like, I put up, and if you guys aren't following me there, shameless plug to go follow on Everything Property, but you'll see that, the probably only people that I don't interview on there is the buyer's agents, because, everyone knows that, they come on, they try to do a sales pitch and they try to just get clients out of me. There's other podcasts that interview buyer's agents. I'm not about, and I don't need to get them on. A lot of people where they have those podcasts and they have buyer's agents on, they charge them, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, and they get the buyer's agents on. The buyer's agent does their spiel, gets clients from it, and that's sort of how those sorts of podcasts work. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have the sales call, and I didn't want to have that sales call and that sort of script. And I said, there's enough people out there for me to interview, find, and get all this information in one place. I think we've done maybe 127, 128 episodes now in terms of the time of recording this episode. So you understand, and if you go through, there's probably an episode on the topic that you're thinking about or you want to know about. So I would encourage you, if my channel's not enough or you've just came across my YouTube content, is to definitely check out Everything Property on Instagram, check out Everything Property on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast, and then you'll sort of understand who I've interviewed, what I've done there. But that sort of has translated to my mission in that space, has been to give people, and I always put up comment boxes. I always ask people, what do you want to hear about? Who do you want to hear from? Who should we interview? To leave no stone unturned, to always answer the questions, to always answer the people, to not just make this about business. Another thing that you'll notice with that podcast too is that I've never put a sponsor message on there. I've never said this episode sponsored by XYZ. Now, that's not to say I won't in the future, but I just feel like a lot of the people that have reached out and tried to sponsor the podcast, I've probably turned down, no word of a lie, hundreds of thousands of dollars in sponsorship or getting people on. It's just because it's a little bit icky. It's the buyer's agent that wants to sponsor it. There's other podcasts that do that, and I just feel like it's a little bit of a conflict of interest to me to be trying to empower people to do it themselves, but then sponsor it with a podcast, but sell out and then sponsor it with the buyer's agent. So I've even kept that ad-free. I've kept my Everything Property YouTube channel ad-free. I've turned off ads there. I've turned off ads on this YouTube channel. I think the way that YouTube works is that they still play ads at the front. I can't avoid that, but I've turned it off so that there's no ads during the middle of my videos, because I don't want you guys to be, your ears to be soiled with the next boom location from who and those sorts of shitty fucking rubbish companies that brand themselves as property advisors but actually just sell off the plan bullshit or house and land packages. Now that you've got that in mind as the context, the other issue and why I probably started the course is the major problem I see currently with Australia's property investing and buyer's agency space. Now, I feel that the buyer's agency space in Australia, I've said it before on my podcast, but it is a fucking Red Sea. What do I mean by that? You can pick up, if you Google this, you can pick up a buyer's agent license for $200 and $250. There's people that have courses that show you how to become a buyer's agent, get in for free. They find there's a bit of a loophole around the licensing where they lend a license and people can be up and running as buyer's agents in a matter of weeks. My issue with that is that those courses show people how to become buyer's agents, but they don't show them how to buy, build, scale. So these people are out there becoming buyer's agents, but they're not properly educated. They're not properly educated on how to do it. They might have bought one or two properties during COVID and they've done well and they go, oh, this is easy. And they get all this confidence. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect where they get this little bit of experience, this little bit of knowledge and they go, yeah, I know all about it. But my family and friends. There is so much more to it. I bought my first property in 2014, and I learn new things every single week since then. And I'm interviewing the best and brightest minds in Australian property, and I'm still learning every week. I don't think you're going to learn everything you need to know after you've done those sorts of courses, because those courses don't teach you about property investing. They teach you how to become the buyer's agent. So for me, you get all these unqualified people coming into the space. So I thought, what is the solution that I can do to fix this problem? Now, the solution isn't going to be me becoming a buyer's agent because I just want to go out there and cash grab 15, 20, 25 grand per purchase and be one of these other people that's jumping into the sea of buyer's agents. To me, that's not going to be the solution. To me, that is not going to be the solution to the answer. The solution is if I put together a course that is good enough, I can educate people. If I educate enough people and they end up becoming buyer's agents, then at least I know that they have a proper education on what they need to do for themselves and for their clients. Because at the moment, these guys are getting out there, and then their first 10, 15, 20, 30 clients, however long that takes them to get, that's where they're testing on. That's where they're learning negotiation. That's where they're making the mistakes. It's on other people's assets, and they're charging people premiums to do that. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I thought, if I create a property investment course and there's people that come through that turn out to be buyer's agents, at least I have been responsible to give them the proper education. They've got that education, that learning, that they can go out there now and do it, rather than them relying on a course that doesn't teach them the skills that they need. It teaches them how to become a buyer's agent. Didn't make sense to me. Now, when you actually learn as well who I am as a person, I'm one of those type of people that, provided it's not something extremely difficult, I like to try to learn myself, or try to learn to equip myself with the skills to be able to do something. I'll give you a few examples. One was when I started the Everything Property podcast, I had no idea in terms of video and audio and how all of that was meant to come together. So I actually took a short course on the program and how to use and clean sound at a podcasting audio level, and how to get that out and stream that out to people, because I had absolutely no idea. Now, obviously, I go on YouTube for this, and YouTube for most things to learn how to do it. However, I believe that when you pay for a course, it's that condensed knowledge of learning and understanding. Now, I hear it all the time in our calls with members, is that there's so much information out there. People don't know where to go or where to start, and that's because of all these podcasts and all these YouTube channels. And I'm one of them too. But for me, when you buy that course, you buy that knowledge. You buy that condensed knowledge to know that after X amount of hours and at Y investment, I'm going to know how to do the thing. So for me, I've been a person that does that myself in like random shit, like audio for their audio and stuff like that. So I thought, if I do a property investment course, I can condense the knowledge that people need, and at a price, I can give that to them so that they get that knowledge. There's people that have come through and said, one guy, I won't name his name, extremely busy, very well paid in sales. And he goes, look, I know that there's so much knowledge out there. There is so much information out there. I just want to be able to pay and get that condensed knowledge so that I know after 30 hours, I'll get all the knowledge I need. And I may still use a buyer's agent, but at least I know that I have saved myself. And for that particular guy, after the first module of our course, he sent me a message on our platform and said, hey, Dave, I just wanted to let you know that doing this first module has paid for the entire course. I said, why is that? And he goes, I had put down $1,000 deposit with a buyer's agent that was trying to sell me a house and land package. And after doing this first module, and after doing that first module of the course, I realized exactly what they were trying to do from what you were saying, and it matched and everything lined up. So I've actually pulled out of using them, and I've saved myself that entire fee and that headache and that drama and that opportunity cost now, because I've just paid that entry fee of that course. When you look at most courses too, especially at ours, I think one of the better things as well when you weigh up course versus buyer's agent is that the course is this one-off skill that you can learn, attain in a set amount of hours, compared to a buyer's agent where every single time you want to invest in property, you have to pay. It's like an entry fee every single property purchase. There's guys there's guys that are members of our course that have bought 6, 8 properties, and they go, Dave, it has just got so expensive. I would rather just pay to learn how to do it now, because it just doesn't make sense. Imagine you're paying 20 grand a buyer's agent fee and you've used them 6 or 8 times. You're talking 2 to 3 deposits for those next 2 to 3 properties you could have had in cash waiting, rather than the buyer's agent and become reliant on the buyer's agent. So that didn't really make sense to me. Now, I didn't originally want to do a course. However, I had a lot of people start to reach out and ask, oh, could you help me do this? Or could you tell me a little about this? Can you teach me how to do that? And to me, that answer wasn't there as a buyer's agency service. The course format probably suited that more, because to me, and when I have people reach out, especially with like development now, I don't want to just show them the answer. I want to show them how to work it out, and then I want to say, hey, this is what you need to do. Come back to me when you figured it out, because that way, if I just give them the answer, they're going to always come back and ask me shit. So like when people, for example, at the moment on YouTube, you guys will see I'm doing the deal reviews, and people will send me the deal reviews and say, hey, what are your thoughts? But I'll actually do the review and say, hey, I've done the review on it, but I actually wanted to hear your thoughts. I want to actually get you to do it, because if you learn how to do the due diligence, then you get really good at it. Then you won't have to come back to me, rather than just rely on me to get my opinion. You know what I mean? And when I look at the course space in property investing in Australia, again, the majority courses out there are made by buyer's agents. And you can't tell me, just logically, let's think about this. A buyer's agent can charge $25,000 for their service to buy your property, or they can teach you how to do their exact same service for a fraction of the cost, half, a third of the cost, right? Do you think a buyer's agent will create a course that tells you absolutely everything you need to know that puts them out of business for a fraction of the costs? Do you actually think that? Do you think a buyer's agent is dumb enough to say, hey, I can charge them 25, but for a quarter of the price or for a third of the price, I'll show you how to do it? Do you think that they're going to include absolutely everything in that course? Or do you think that course is a bit of a lead magnet, lead gen to go into the property investing thing? I hear buyer's agents now that you've got to sign up for their school or their whatever it is. You've got to pay that money, but then you've still got to use them as a buyer's agency service. So they're sort of double dipping. It's like, what do you get in that money then? What is the point of paying that money if you're not fully qualified to go out and buy it yourself? It's just a cash grab. So I thought, okay, well, I can't be the guy that sits on the sidelines and has the podcast that advocates for people going out there and do it themselves, but then not have a solution to that answer when people ask for it. So for me, it goes, okay, well, that's the problem. What is the solution? The solution is the course to enable people to go out and do it themselves. Another thing when I looked at the course space as well, and what I fucking absolutely hate, excuse my language, but everyone goes out there and it's the same as the buyer's agency story. Now, people have bought 5, 10, 20 properties, whatever it is. They go out there and say, look, they advocate for it. They go, this is the best. This is the way I've done it. This is my buyer's agency. This is my course, whatever. That's cool, but you guys as well as me both know the most important thing in this game of property is your team. You can agree with that. I can agree with that. Everyone says it. You need to find the team. You need to find the team. Now tell me why None of these guys, none of these other courses, none of the buyer's agents will tell you who their team is. Whether you know it or not, the reason that they don't tell you this is because you have to use their panel of professionals, their panel of team. The reason why is because they get the kickback from the team, right? They get the kickback from the team, and it's all secretive, it's under wraps, and they teach you based on only their learnings. But I said, well, everyone says how important it is to have a team, but for some reason, no one's done a course where you're getting taught by that team. Why? Scott Agate, that's in our course, that teaches the negotiation module. Scott has negotiated across 4,000 deals. He's been a real estate agent for almost 20 years, and now he's flipped the script, and he's been a professional negotiator for, I think, the last 7. So it's like, I can tell you what I've learned from negotiation from my last 7-10 deals, or I can get the guy that's been doing it for 4,000. Who are you going to trust more, or who's got more experience? I say it as well. Depreciation, Mike Mortlock, he's been doing it for 20 years. Why don't we just hear from the guy that's been doing it for 20 years and devoted his entire career to it, rather than me tell you, oh yeah, here's the depreciation, here's what I've learned over the last 4 or 5 properties. Doesn't really make sense to me. Another thing as well that nobody else was willing to do that I did. I went out there, go on our website now and look at the team of professionals that we've done and do your research, do your homework on them, listen to the podcast that they've done, look at the awards that they've won. The reason that I've named and showed the team is because I think that they're the best people to use. I think they are the best people in the property investing space in Australia. You can go and do your independent research on them. If you don't even want to do our course, that is totally fine. Still go and use them. You don't even have to come through me. I don't need a referral. I don't need $250 each time you use these type of guys. Mike Mortlock charges, I don't know, $750 for a depreciation schedule. What am I going to ask that guy for a kickback? What am I going to ask that guy for a kickback for? What's he going to give me, $50? It just doesn't work. So I've named them. You can go to them independently, not even say that you've seen them from Everything Property, not even say that you've used them from the course. Even the guys that are in our course now, I say, do you want an intro, or do you want to reach out to them independently? And, it's 50-50. Yeah, give me the intro, or I'll reach out independently. It doesn't bother me because I don't get kickbacks from them. You guys can use them if you're just listening to this. Their names are there. Their companies are there. Please go for it. But I know that there's no one else in Australian property educational space or buyer's agent that are doing that. And why don't they do that, my friends? Because they get a kickback. Now, they might say that they don't, but I'm telling you they do, and they'll find a way to get around it because, all these buyer's agents is just trying to make as much money as possible. Another really cool thing, now another reason why I chose the course route compared to, say, the buyer's agency route is, and it's something that made sense to me for a long time, but I could never explain it properly until I heard Stephen Bartlett's 5-bucket philosophy. Now, if you haven't heard or know what this sort of 5-bucket philosophy is, I recommend you reading his book, Diary of a CEO. I have it floating around somewhere. I'm trying to catch it. Look, it's somewhere around here. Hopefully I haven't lent it out to anyone, because never lend out books, they never come back. But the 5-bucket philosophy is this: you must start whatever to be successful, to be extremely wealthy. You must start out to fill your knowledge bucket, and it is a sequential step per bucket for you to be the best. For you to be successful, you must start out and go 1 to 5. You cannot skip number 1. You cannot skip number 2 and go to 3. You must start out in sequential and fill your buckets. So the first bucket that he says that you need to fill is your knowledge. You need to fill up your knowledge on what you know, right? You need to study. You need to get educated. The second, to be able to master and be the absolute best at anything, is you need to then you need to then apply that knowledge, which is called skills. You need to build the skills. So first, how to do shit. Then you need to be able to put it in action. After you put it in, then you need to build your network. You need to build your network up. It is who you know. After that, it comes down to what you have, your resources, and fifth and last, what the world thinks of you, your reputation. Now let's break this down, because if you were just someone that had $1 million cash and you hadn't have the knowledge, skills, or team, you could have the $1 million cash, but it's an easy way to blow it. If you were someone that just had a great network, well, that's cool. But if you don't have any knowledge or skills, you can't make the use of that network. You know what I mean? So, and you don't have skills without having the knowledge. So for me, teaching people property investing, giving them that team, gives them the knowledge. We then apply it in the skill of property investing, and that we give them the knowledge. We then work with you as you build the skill. We give you the network, and at the same time, you're building your resources of what you have. All those put together is your reputation. So I thought that to me is the way to master anything in life. I think about that for development. I think that about that property investing. I think that about absolutely anything. And it is so true. You must always pour into your knowledge bucket, and then the rest flows on and on and on. More knowledge, more skills, more network, more resources. The more people you know, then you have access to more things. The more things you have access to, then you can start to build your reputation. But you must do it in that sequential order. So that is one of the strong reasons why I feel giving people a course, giving them everything they need, helping them apply that knowledge to make it a skill, to me is setting people up for success. Look, I also want to be transparent with people, like I say every episode. And I mean, I don't know if I'm doing things wrong, but I can say from launching a course and running it is that, people think that you launch a course and you make $1 million and it's, simple as that. Creating a course, the course creation took over a year for us, 12 months. The running of a course takes so much more work than you guys think. And the profit on the course, we give out 6 months worth of free hashtag subscription. Now that obviously costs us in terms of that hashtag subscription, right? And then we do what no other course provider does too, is we do a game plan session, a personalized property portfolio plan for everyone that takes our course. Now those things, when you're taking GST, when you're taking tax, all those sorts of things, I mean, I might be doing it wrong, but there is so much less profit in courses than I thought, and that a lot of the people that probably do courses will think. However, it's probably a misconception with the general public out there thinking, oh yeah, you just create a course and people sign up and that's it. It takes an absolute army. It takes so much work and effort to be able to do it. Now, I want to be clear on how I make the majority of my money too. The majority of my money is going to be made and is made through property development. And now the guys in my course would have seen as well this week, I shared another site that I just exchanged on in terms of another development site and the numbers around that. But the development and the projects that I'm doing can make anywhere between sort of $400,000-500,000 on a project up until I got a really juicy one that's probably about $1.6 to $1.8 million. Now, my friends, it is so much easier for me to make that $400,000-500,000, have a couple of those projects, a couple of those really juicy ones where it's like $1.6, $1.8 million, for me to make enough money to live off, to invest, to be happy. The money I make from courses will come nowhere near this. I mean, if it does, I'll be ecstatic, but you can see from that sort of money generated in capital that it's going to take a very long time to try to match that in courses. So for me, I make the majority of my money in property development. However, the best thing about property development and why I'm such an advocate for it is, if you've generated the relationships with the agent, you'll get the site off market. Now, there's a few weeks of coordination work with the consultant and the project team to put the DA together, right? My work. Now, then the DA might be in council from anywhere from 3 to 6 months. The beauty of that means that I don't have to do much work. I can send one email to, council or to the architect for a checkup per week or per fortnight. That's it. I don't need to do any other work in my entire week for that time. So think 6-month period, I need to send one email per fortnight for one development. I got a couple of going, so you might say that's 4 or 5, 6 emails. Cool. But then I have my entire week left to do whatever I want, knowing that I'm making that couple of million development. So for me, that's always been the podcast and the course, because I like to do this stuff. I like to do the podcast. I like to interview these people. I like to help people and show them that they can property invest themselves. So for me, because development requires so little of my time, even when it comes out, there's a few weeks there of coordination for the construction certificate and funding. But then the builder's building it. I don't have to physically build it. I don't have any other commitment there. So for me, it's like, okay, well, what else do I do with my time? Yeah, I might look at some more sites, but I can do the course stuff. I can dedicate my time and effort to the course, to the podcast, to making this stuff the best I can for people. Whereas, you take a buyer's agent, I always say this, the buyer's agents, why they get it wrong, they go for the course because it's their cash grab, right? They go for the course, we'll go for a cash grab, we'll use that as a marketing funnel, we'll double dip on people. But what they don't understand is if you spend 100 hours, your core business is buyer's agency, right? If you spend half of your time on the course, you're taking half of your time away from your buyer's agency business. So you're actually giving yourself half as much time to do what? The same amount of work. What quality and effort are you going to have then for those people that have signed up to pay 25K? It's not going to be great. But they all go, oh, nah, we'll do the course too. What they don't realize is that is taking time, effort, money, resources away from their core business. Whereas me, my core business is the course. My core business is the property podcast. That's all I do. I might do an email or two to follow up on the projects, but apart from that, I'm here, I'm flying, I'm in this full time. This is my gig now. So, I want to be transparent around that. And if you're in development or you want to get into development, definitely hit me up if you've got questions. You've seen me make some videos on this channel already around it, looking to do a little bit more on that. But I think another thing as well is another reason is that I'm probably stubborn in terms of relying on people, having to rely on people for things. So that's why I like to try to learn those skills myself. And I think if you don't, you'll always be relying on buyers agents or other people to do it for you. A good example of a high agency person is someone that is equipped with has great knowledge, has great skills, great communicator. You have those, multifaceted things that make you a high agency person. You want to be independent. You want to have a level of independence and be able and not have to rely on other people, especially when it comes to building your own wealth. Because to me, no one's going to care about my shit, my portfolio, my wealth building, no matter what anyone says. Everyone is in this, ladies and gents, for themselves. And no one's going to care as much about your shit as you do. So that's why I say, don't always be reliant. You want to be independent and look after your own shit. Take responsibility for your own shit. But in simple terms, ladies and gentlemen, that is why I have created Australia's best property investment course. Very subjective calling it the best, because obviously there's no bloody rules around this thing. But if you've got any questions, please let me know. Thoughts, feelings in the comments as usual. I'll see you guys tomorrow.